Hi guys, I'm David with MediaUnlock.net, and today we're going to be talking about the Canon 80D, which came out about a month ago. B&H sent this out to me to test out and review. Now, of course, we've done an unboxing, and I also do a breakdown that shows you how to use all the functions of the camera, so all the buttons and functions. So if you want to see the unboxing, I'm going to post it right here, and I'll post the very first video to the buttons and functions and walkthrough of the Canon 80D. But today we just want to talk about what my thoughts and opinions, my pros and cons, what I did and didn't like about the camera. One thing I should mention is that I really like the 80D over the predecessor, which was the 70D. Now, normally I tell people if you're going to upgrade, say you had the 60D, wait till the 80D comes out, then upgrade, because there's going to be a bigger jump. And you're probably going to be okay using the 60D till about 2 years later when the next camera body comes out. Well, the 70 to 80D, for me, it seems like there's a larger jump. If I wasn't attached to these full-frame cameras ever since I moved to my Canon 60 when it came out, I really have been attached to the full-frame camera of the Canon 60 and other full-frame cameras. I had the Mark II before that. So I don't really have a use for a crop-censored camera. It's a 1.6 crop-censored camera. And so I just don't have a large use for a crop censored camera, but this thing is really nice, and we're going to talk about some of the nice pros that you really get. So let's dive right into it. First off, I want to mention that this body only version is going to run you about $1,200 USD, which isn't really that bad for what you're going to get in this camera. Now granted, for about that same price, you can get a Canon 60, which is a full frame camera, used, and if you're really lucky you might be able to find it for about $1,200 new. It's very possible, but you don't get some of the nice features like touchscreen and 7 frames per second. We're going to go all over all of that in the Canon 60, but you are getting a full frame camera that will do much better with ISO. So as I mentioned, this is a $1,200 body, which isn't really that bad for what all you get in it. On top of that, you get 24.2 megapixels, where the predecessor, the 70D, only had 20 megapixels. So you're getting an extra 4 megapixel jump, which really isn't that big of a deal unless you're planning to blow up your pictures just a little bit larger now than what you were doing before. Now you do get 45 cross autofocus points, which is fantastic. With the Canon 70D, you got around 19 autofocus points. And these autofocus points are very accurate and precise. On top of that, you get 7 frames per second at 25 raw frames. So you can shoot 7 frames per second. Mainly you can shoot for about 4 seconds almost straight. At raw, you can shoot raw files for about 4 seconds straight at 7 frames per second, which is fantastic. So I took it to Keeneland, which is a local racetrack here in Kentucky. It's also Churchill Downs is well known for the Kentucky Derby. Well, when the Kentucky Derby is not going on, Keeneland is the place to go watch your horse racing here in Kentucky. So I took it out there to see if those 7 frames per second really worked, and I was really impressed how fast it could focus. Again, you want to use AI servo when focusing on a subject that's moving and you're going to be moving with it. So I threw it on AI servo. I had the 70 to 200, and I just went to town. So I'm going to pop up some pictures now. And it did really well. Now, after you hit that 25th picture, it is going to take about 5 to 10 seconds to just download, to buff all that information and download it onto your card, so then you can start shooting again. So there's about as much as 15-second break that you have to wait before you can do another 25 raw files. But you were able to get 25 raw files continuously at 7 frames per second, which just blew me away. So that's a really nice plus. So people that are doing sports photography, this is going to be a great camera for that. For the simple fact, it is a 1.6 crop censored camera. It does okay with ISO. We're going to go over my opinion on the ISO here in a second. But you can use a 70-200, right? But it's on a crop censored camera, so that's the equivalent of a 112 millimeters to 320 millimeters. Now it is a 70-200 lens, but because the sensor is actually cropped, you're actually seeing further through the focal point. So you're really getting around 112 millimeters to 320 millimeters. So just to let you know, that's one of the nice things about having a crop censored camera, especially if you're doing sports. You can reach out and see stuff a little bit better. And it worked really well for the horses. They did add time-lapse mode into this camera. I'm not sure if there was a time-lapse mode on the 70D. So the nice thing about the time-lapse mode is that you're able to shoot time lapses and you're able to do it in camera. I am still old school and I like to do it manually with an intervalometer. So it kind of has a built-in intervalometer, right? Well, I like to go external with the intervalometer, throw it on a tripod and really control my time lapse. I feel like I can control it a little bit better with the intervalometer versus what's built into the camera. But for people that aren't very serious with their time lapses, having this time lapse mode is awesome. You also have Wi-Fi, which has been in previous models. Last time I checked, though, the new Canon app that allows you to connect via Wi-Fi and download pictures like onto your phone or a tablet, they had not made the update to allow the Canon 80D to be used. And that was a couple weeks ago. So hopefully they made that fix, or they're coming out with a firmware that will allow firmware update for the 80D that will allow you to actually get the Canon EOS app and be able to download photos and take a look at them in real time as you are taking them. Let's talk about the ISO. I was pretty impressed with the ISO on the 80D for a crop censored camera. You can get pretty clean ISO between 12 and 1600, and even at 2000, it's still a bearable ISO. I'm gonna pop up a few pictures so you can see the difference. Right above 3000 is where it gets almost unbearable and you really can't use it. But again, you're looking at a entry-level camera that's crop censored, and so you're able to get 1600 ISO, which is great. Something like a Canon T5i, T6i, like max 800 ISO. You go over 800, you're gonna start having noise issues. So far as photography goes, those are some of the things I really liked with the Canon 80D. And of course, you've got your little swivel screen, articulating screen. Again, this has been in so many of the newer models. There's nothing really that exciting in my opinion to talk about. It is touchscreen, so you are able to touch specific spots on live view mode and actually autofocus. Again, I just don't see the use for that as a professional photographer. I like to get behind the camera, I like to look through the viewfinder, and I like to pick exactly where I want my autofocus to be. But the nice thing is, again, you get those 45 cross autofocus points, which is fantastic, especially when it comes to sports, because it's going to make it easier to focus with those high frame rates. So let's talk about video. They added some really cool additions to video, and this is one of the reasons I really would almost consider getting this camera, because it is one of the nicer video cameras on the market, in my opinion, right now. For DSLR, for Canon, for the simple fact is they've added in a headphone jack. That's right, you now can have a monitoring of audio while shooting video, so you can get a good idea where your levels need to be at. You don't have to just look at the levels on the back of the camera. You can actually hear and see the levels and make sure things are good and crisp and where you want them when you're recording video. So I really like that they added in a headphone jack. Another really nice thing is they finally added in 1080p at 60 frames per second. So you can now shoot 60 frames per second at 1080p instead of 720p like previous Canon models. This actually may be the first Canon model that's come out that does these 60 frames per second at 1080p, which I really like. On top of that, you can get 24 frames per second at 1080p, and you get 30 minutes of recording. That's right, 30 minutes of continuous recording, which I absolutely love that you get 30 minutes of continuous recording. I remember back when I was using my 5D Mark II, and it would stop at 12 minutes. Every time it hit like 11:45, 11:55, 12 minutes, boom, it would stop. And if I was in the middle of a shoot, I'd have to do a retake, or I'd have to plan around that 12-minute mark and then hit the record button again, start it back up. So you're getting 30 minutes of continuous shooting with this, which I find fantastic. Canon has added in a dual pixel Cmos sensor for doing really nice, smooth autofocus. Now this is something that I was a little like, is this really gonna work? Every Canon autofocus system that I've seen, even the STM lenses, hasn't been as smooth as I really like it. Is this really gonna get what I want it to do? And I was highly impressed. I did some shots. I even threw the Canon 80D with the 24-105 f4 lens onto a glide cam, and I took it here in my studio, and I got a buddy of mine, and I got him to just do some walking to see if it could keep up with focusing as I moved in and out and around him. Could it get nice smooth focus? And yes, there are a few times you're probably going to notice that it does go out of focus a little bit, but it really smoothly goes right back into focus. And with this new sensor, I'm really impressed. This new dual pixel sensor, it does a really nice job of doing autofocus. Again, this was a non-STM lens that I was using to do autofocus. It was just a 24 24 to 105 f4 L lens by Canon, their basic kit lens for their full frame bodies. So it did a really good job of focusing, and it was really quiet. You didn't get that loud, annoying noise, or that time, I don't know if you guys ever remember like the old Canon models when they first started having video in them, you would hit the focus button and it would be like, and it would make a loud noise, and then it would jump around trying to figure out, oh my God, what do I focus? What do I do? I don't know. I can't make a decision. So this 80D does a great job of making that decision on your autofocus, and it's nice and smooth. It's not up to par with like the Sony a7S II, which is absolutely really smooth for a Canon, not a Canon, but for a DSLR camera in general. But the 80D does a really good job with the autofocus, and that's one of the reasons that almost pulls me into it, because I do so much product reviews and on-the-go videos where something as simple as having this basic autofocus was set up. It would be really nice to have it. What I'm hoping though is they're going to add this to the new Canon 6D Mark II when it does come out, and I'm hoping to pick that up if there's enough changes from the 6D to the 6D Mark II, because it's been a while since they've updated the 6D. The other nice thing about their new nano autofocusing system is they're going to be adding the PZE1 power zoom adapter. So what is the PEZ1 power zoom adapter? Well, the really cool thing about the PEZ1 power zoom adapter, it's almost a tongue twister, is that it's going to be a piece that's going to go on the bottom of your lens here. And what it's going to be able to do with the specialized lenses that they're going to be making for it, you'll actually be able to hold it and you'll be able to zoom. So you'll actually be able to keep nice fresh autofocus as well. Using certain zoom lenses, you'll be able to zoom in and out. I think they're going to add in some kind of servo into these lenses maybe. I'm not exactly sure because I haven't tested it out and I haven't seen exactly how it works. But it will allow you to actually do physical zooming in and out with a Canon DSLR. So that is a first for Canon that they've put out so far. So I think it's really, really cool that they've done this, and I'm really interested to get my hands on one and test it out and see how well it works. Now, I didn't really have a lot of cons for this camera. I probably should have had more. One thing I don't like is this back button. I don't like the way this is set up. It just feels funny, and I hit the wrong thing sometimes with my fingers, and it's very frustrating. So that is a con. Another one, it's not really a con, but a thing to mention, is that you're going to need to make sure that you have SDXC cards. The original Class 10 cards are not going to work in this. It's just going to give you a card read error. To make sure to run this Canon camera, you are going to need a faster SD card. So if you don't, make sure that you're going to purchase some new SD cards. They're very, very cheap. Transcend makes super amazing SD cards that are really cheap on Amazon. Go check them out. Actually, I'll just add in a link right here for you guys if you guys want to go check out some of their cards that will work perfect with this camera body. And of course, anything you guys do purchase does help us out here at Media Unlocked. I would have liked to see 4K video in a camera. The Canon has yet to put 4K in a camera, a DSLR camera, and I really would have liked to see some 4K video in the 80D. This thing would have made it, it just would have made it so sweet. It would have made it one of those things where I actually really considered buying another crop censored camera instead of going full frame, because it would have had all these features that I just previously talked about with 4K, which would have been really big for me to have a 4K sensor, 4K, option to record video. So this is my review and thoughts, pros and cons on the Canon 80D. I didn't have a lot of cons. It really performed really well for what it was. It was a lot of fun to use it with this Canon 70-200 Mark II, which I really liked. And yeah, if you guys are interested in checking this camera out, there'll be a link after this. Just click on that link. Go to B&H, you can read the reviews and read the specs on it, and if you're interested in purchasing it, by doing so through my link, it does give us commission, it does help to keep the channel alive. As always, guys, I'll catch you next time. Hey guys, if you'd like to check out our website where we have all kinds of fun and exciting blogs, videos, and extra information that isn't on our YouTube page, click right here.
If you'd like to talk to us or contact us and kind of take a look at all the different stuff that we have going on, we've kind of funneled it all through our Facebook. You can hit our Facebook page right here and follow us or like us. Now, if you like to look at cool pictures and behind the scenes stuff, we do that on Instagram right here. So go on and follow us on Instagram. And of course, we got our cute little bird right here, Mr. Twitter, and you can follow us as we do our short tweets.